M. Night Shyamalan's newest film, Glass, is due to be released in January of 2019, a sequel to 2016's Split, and interestingly, his earlier film, Unbreakable, released in the year 2000. For those that haven't seen Unbreakable or Split, but want to be refreshed or caught up on their plot before you watch Glass, you've come to the right place. This recap will of course spoil the plot of both Unbreakable and Split, so consider yourself forewarned. This is a pre-play for the movie Glass. In Philadelphia in the early 1960s, a woman gives birth to a baby with a rare genetic disorder, commonly known as brittle bone disease. This disease will cause the young child, Elijah, tremendous pain throughout his life, as his bones are extremely fragile and prone to breakage. In fact, even the act of being born has caused the poor child to shatter all his arms and legs. As he grows up, he suffers break after traumatic break, but is encouraged by his mother to live his life in spite of his affliction, and she introduces him to the world of comic books. The young Elijah Price becomes fascinated by these worlds, filled with heroes and villains, of good triumphing over evil, and grows up to become a connoisseur of comics, becoming a prideful dealer of rare and highly valued prints in his personal gallery. Flash forward to the year 2000, where David Dunn is on a train returning from a job interview. His marriage to his wife Audrey is deteriorating, and it seems that David has regrets and thoughts of what could have been had he not abandoned a promising football career in his college years. He and Audrey were in a car accident that knocked out Audrey but left David seemingly unharmed, but David used the car accident as an excuse to give away his passion in favour of marrying Audrey, as she disliked the violent nature of the sport. Now in his 40s, David has found himself working security in a baseball stadium, wondering if there isn't more to life. David and Audrey's young son Joseph watches television and flicks onto the news to find that the train carrying his father has catastrophically derailed. David awakens in hospital to find that he is the sole survivor of the tragedy, again, miraculously unscathed. At a funeral service, in memory of all those that perished in the tragedy, David finds a note on his windshield asking him, "How many days of your life have you been sick?" David wonders this himself, realizing that he has never taken a sick day in the 5 years he has worked at his job, nor can Audrey recall a single time in their relationship where he has ever had so much as a cold. David and Joseph journey to Elijah's gallery, where they are questioned by him as he probes for more information about David's history of health. A man who has spent a third of his life in a hospital bed with little to no company outside of his comic books. Elijah represents the upper limit of human fragility, and theorizes that perhaps there is someone who represents the other end of that spectrum. To that end, he has been studying the tragic events in the news lately, including a plane crash, a hotel fire, and now this train derailment, always searching for the phrase that might confirm his suspicion.
There is a sole survivor, and he is miraculously unharmed.
This person may likely not even know they have such a gift. David is extremely suspicious of Elijah's proposal and leaves, but Elijah later tracks David down to his job. Drawing a link between David working security as a sign that he is meant to protect people, Elijah observes as David is able to accurately determine that a man in line can be potentially dangerous through instinct alone. As Elijah leaves the stadium, he catches a glimpse of this dangerous man and pursues him as fast as his frail body will allow. Desperate to see if David's instinct is correct, Elijah allows himself to be seriously injured by following the man down a large flight of stairs. In his haste, he falls, tumbling down the stairs in great pain, but not before catching a glimpse of the exact weapon that David described. Unaware of Elijah's injury, David returns home from work, becoming curious of his own abilities. Joseph helps him to test on a bench press, realizing that he is far, far stronger than he ever realized. Elijah seeks physical therapy from Audrey, who has evidently channeled her distaste for violence into a career path, where she reveals to him that in fact David was not injured in the car crash like he claims. At work, David stands among the crowds and allows them to brush past him, developing his instinctual ability. One such child seems to have many voices emanating from him. At school, Joseph stands up for a girl being bullied, hoping that he inherited some of his father's perceived abilities. David is called into the principal's office to talk about Joseph's behaviour, and she reminds him that when David was a boy attending the same school, he nearly drowned in the school swimming pool. Joseph becomes extremely frustrated by David's refusal to believe in himself, threatening to shoot David to demonstrate his invulnerability. After a tense standoff, Joseph relinquishes the gun, and David pleads with Elijah to stay out of his life, informing him that he definitely has been injured in his near drowning as a child. Elijah is deeply rocked by this news, but his faith is reconfirmed when he reasons that David must have a weakness, as all superheroes do. In David's case, water. David goes to the warehouse containing the broken wreckage of the train that failed to kill him, and it reminds him of the night of the car crash, where not only did he survive, but he ripped Audrey's door off its hinges to save her. Realizing that Elijah may be correct, David seeks his guidance of what to do next. He stands in a bustling train station, allowing himself to connect with the multitudes of people that walk by, seeing the various crimes of those that he touches: a thief, a violent racist, a rapist, and finally a serial killer who has murdered a man and started squatting in his home. Tailing the murderer back to the victim's house, David finds 2 children of the victim still alive and chained up. However, the mother has also been killed. The murderer sneaks up on David and pushes him off the balcony into a pool where he begins to drown, caught in the pool cover, exposed to his weakness. He is saved by the kids and returns inside, overpowering the murderer and strangling him to death. Returning home, David reconciles with Audrey, but chooses to keep his heroic exploits a secret from her. He does, however, share them with Joseph, who recognizes his father from a newspaper article detailing the event. At Elijah's comic exhibition, David meets Elijah's mother, who is happy to see that David and Elijah have become friends. David goes to shake Elijah's hand, but is confronted with terrible images of all the crimes he has committed, planning out the tragedies that have befallen the city lately, including the train accident that David survived, and with plans for many more. Elijah realized that if he was not to be the hero in his own tale, perhaps he was meant to be the villain. A villain whose devastating crimes would become the origin story for someone else. A friend turned arch-nemesis. Elijah remarks that he should have realized this sooner. After all, the kids at school that used to tease him have already given him a fitting villainous nickname.
They called me Mr. Glass.
Elijah summons up a giant purple suit of armor and charges at David, who responds by slamming him through the walls of the gallery. No, not really. The credits immediately begin to roll as we are told through text that David called the police on Elijah and had him institutionalized, and the movie ends. The year is 2016, and Casey Cook is attending a birthday party for Claire, a fellow student in her art class. Claire has only invited Casey to the party out of obligation. They aren't really friends, but Claire felt it would have been cruel to invite the entire class except her. Casey is a troubled youth with a history of acting out in school, likely motivated by her father's death by heart attack at a young age and her legal guardianship being handed over to her uncle, a savage man who molests her. At the end of the party, Casey is the only one to have not been picked up on time, so Claire's dad insists that he gives her a lift home, along with Claire and her best friend Marsha. As Claire's father packs the car with her birthday gifts, he is drugged, and the assailant climbs into the driver's seat. The assailant is named Kevin, a man who suffers from dissociative identity disorder, where 22 other personas inhabit his mind and contend for control of his body. The personas are distinct from each other in both age, personality, characteristics, tendencies, and even gender. The persona that kidnapped the girls is named Dennis, a man with OCD tendencies who drugs the girls before imprisoning them in some sort of underground bunker. Dr. Karen Fletcher, Kevin's counselor, receives a desperately worded email from Barry, another one of Kevin's personas, desperately seeking an unscheduled appointment. Karen meets with Barry, who says that nothing is wrong, that he was only concerned of what would happen to the group once she retires or passes on. The entire scientific community has doubts over the authenticity of dissociative identity disorder, and Dr. Fletcher hopes to publish a study about Kevin's affliction in order to validate it within the public consciousness. Dr. Fletcher worries that Barry is acting strangely and hopes that he'll stay, but Barry insists that this is only a quick visit and that the group is fine before leaving. Back in the bunker, the girls notice that Dennis, the kidnapper, is having a conversation with a woman who is berating him for bothering the girls. They are surprised to see a new female persona, Patricia, who introduces herself and says that Dennis won't be bothering them anymore. They are to be unspoiled food for something called the Beast. Later on, Hedwig, a persona of a 9-year-old boy, introduces himself to the girls. Hedwig reveals that he has taken the light, giving him control of Kevin's body, but it won't be long before Dennis takes it back. Casey tries to befriend him, but when that fails, she tries to convince him that Dennis and Patricia will be using him as food instead. This scares Hedwig, who runs out of the room. Casey realizes that Hedwig mentioned this room was made to hold them, and the girls search the drywall for a potential means of escape. Claire finds a sealed-over grate, and the other 2 girls buy time for her as she tears through the drywall, holding the door against the 9-year-old Hedwig, who is unable to push through. But when the much stronger Dennis takes control, he easily overpowers them. Claire escapes, but is soon tracked down by Dennis and sealed in a different room. Sometime later, Patricia prepares a meal for the other 2 girls, and Marsha uses this as a chance to escape, unsuccessfully. She too is locked in her own room, leaving all 3 girls separated from each other. Hedwig meets with Casey and reveals that he has the special ability to seize the light anytime he wants to. Patricia and Dennis befriended Hedwig because of this, and used his gift to prevent Barry from taking back control while they enacted their plan. Casey convinces Hedwig to take her to his room, hoping to find an escape. Instead, she finds only a walkie-talkie, and tries desperately to get someone to help as Hedwig freaks out. She reaches someone, but whoever it is thinks she is simply playing a prank, and Dennis takes back control, re-imprisoning her. Dr. Fletcher receives another panicked email from Barry, who seems desperate to organize a session. Again, Barry acts quite nonchalant during the meeting, as if nothing is wrong, but Dr. Fletcher doesn't buy it. She accuses the man in front of her of actually being Dennis, masquerading as Barry. She feels that in his desperation, Barry has been temporarily seizing control from Dennis, and using that precious time to contact Dr. Fletcher and get help. Dennis has been going to the meetings, pretending to be Barry, to keep up the appearance that nothing is wrong within the group. Dennis and Patricia had, in the past, been banned from the light because of their belief in the Beast, a 24th personality that has extraordinary power that Dennis and Patricia believe will be the group's salvation. Dr. Fletcher understands that Dennis believes he is acting in the group's best interest, as he did when the persona itself was born. As a child, Kevin's abusive mother was cruel to him for making a mess, and in that moment Dennis took control, keeping things neat and spotless to avoid her wrath. He is again and now attempting to protect the group by awakening the Beast, as once this mysterious persona is awakened and in charge, the group will no longer have to live in fear. Dennis drops the facade entirely and speaks openly to Dr. Fletcher, who tries to convince him that the Beast is not real. She earns Dennis's trust by revealing that she knows how to give control back to Kevin by saying his full name aloud, but has chosen not to use this knowledge as it would cause chaos within the group, as all the personas fought for control of the light. But Dennis insists the Beast is real. He's met him. And not only that, the Beast is coming very soon and will feast on the impure. Dr. Fletcher follows Dennis back to the bunker, winning him over with her kind words and understanding of how extraordinary the group is. She discovers that Dennis is the one that kidnapped the missing girls and tries to put a stop to his madness, but she is unable to convince him to free the kidnapped girls, and he drugs her like he did the rest. Dennis and Patricia swap control as they travel throughout the city, heading for the train station where Kevin's father abandoned him as a child. Dennis arrives at the destination and awakens the Beast, who takes control. The girls attempt to escape their confinements as the Beast races back to the bunker, running on all fours like an erratic animal. Dr. Fletcher slowly awakens from her drugging and groggily attempts to write down Kevin's full name. The Beast appears behind her, thanking her for all she has done so far, before crushing her to death between his arms. Her last action was to stab him with a kitchen knife, only to have it splinter against his impervious skin. While trying to find a way out, Casey stumbled across video diaries of the various personalities, and one reveals the location of a set of keys to escape her room. She creeps down the hallway containing Marsha and Claire's cells. She peels back the door, but to her horror she finds that the Beast has already devoured Marsha and is currently in the process of eating Claire. Casey deadbolts the door and makes a run for it, coming across Dr. Fletcher's body and note. As the Beast scales the walls behind her, Casey shouts Kevin's full name, which brings the long-dormant Kevin back in control of the light. He realizes he has not been in command in over 2 years, and pleads with Casey to take his shotgun and end him. The other personalities, Jade, Orwell, and Barry, fight each other for control before Hedwig uses his ability to take over. Hedwig feels betrayed by Casey and hands the light over to Patricia, who has seen the Beast's grand vision. The Beast will continue to feed on more and more people. He will soon kidnap 12 more girls. Casey flees as Patricia allows the Beast to seize control. Casey seals herself in a cage and gets 3 shotgun blasts into it at close range, which she is able to withstand, albeit painfully. The Beast is about to rip apart the cage protecting Casey when he notices her self-harm wounds and recognizes that she has been awoken too. The Beast considers those who have never experienced trauma to be unpure, and by his reasoning, Casey deserves to live. The Beast runs off into the night, and sometime later, an employee of the Philadelphia Zoo discovers Casey. This is where she and the other girls had been kept prisoner at Barry's place of employment. As Patricia, Dennis, and Hedwig marvel at all the Beast has done for them, a news report gives the murderous group a name fitting of their condition: the Horde. A patron of a Philadelphia cafe recalls that 15 years ago, another criminal was given a similarly catchy name by the media, to which David Dunn confirms there was, and his name was Mr. Glass. And now you're all caught up with the plot of both movies that precede Glass. The Horde is on the loose throughout Philadelphia, and David Dunn seems to still be there 15 years after his first heroic escapades. I hope you enjoyed the film Glass and have enjoyed this quick summary. Leave a message in the comments for the next summary you'd like to see, remembering that this can be for any TV series, movie, or video game series with a new title releasing soon. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time. All the best. Bye.